Hello Internet, Stephen Gilbert here with the Vaterra Camaro SS, also known as the V100S for those who have the different versions of the brushed car. Here are some of the tools I'm using, kind of hard to see, but I'm sure they're just standard sizes. So what we're going to be doing is putting thicker diff fluid in the rear differential because I'm pretty sure there's grease in it, and we'll find out. This is the grease that we're going to, this is the silicone fluid that we're going to be putting in the front, 20,000 weight. And we're going to put 100,000 in the rear just to stiffen it up. Notice this car has a lot of issues, and also have the Vitara branded 4-way, of course. I've noticed this car had a lot of issues going in a straight line. I really don't do many corners with this car, so putting the thicker fluid in it is not really going to hurt me as far as turning. So the first thing we're going to do, and we're going to go in fast motion so you don't get bored, is take the motor cover off. Under here you'll see the pinion and the motor plate. It's not like you have to set it with a piece of paper and get your mesh just right. It does it for you. And I'm a little disappointed since the Vaterra Camaro SS comes with some upgraded parts. It does come with an upgraded metal drive shaft, where the brushless version, or I'm sorry, the brushed versions come with a plastic one. This comes with a plastic motor mount, which I think if you would spend that much more money on a car, you would get the aluminum motor mount as well, but it does not. I don't think there's going to be performance advantages of the metal over the plastic besides heat dispersion. Maybe if you had a really powerful motor, it would keep it from twisting something. Sorry, doing this by hand. I wish I had some little tool that was strong enough to, or not too strong to break this. So we're going to take the top brace off. I have the cables and antenna zip tied to it, so we're not going to go too crazy with it. So I've had this car for about a little over a year now. I had some other videos, I'll post it right here, about my 1-year review on this car. So I started making some changes. I did the 1-year review before I changed the motor in the ESC. This is a 4600 kV motor and a Sidewinder 3. You can see there's the metal drive shaft and the teeth and the gears. What I found out was that it felt like the grease was thicker in the front differential than the rear differential, so in my opinion it caused a lot of issues. So after you take that first cover off, the next place you want to go is on the bottom, and there's 4 screws you want to take off their differential. Pretty much, I think you could take about 6 or 7 screws out of that altogether. We're going to go fast again, just like NASCAR. We're going to go fast, and we're going to go left. As you can see, these are the stock Vitara tires. I took the rims off and painted them to match one of my other bodies. I don't really recommend these Vitara tires. They don't seem to last as long. I have a pair of HPI Cross X tires or something like that, and they last a lot longer. The only problem is the rears are 26 millimeter as well on the front and back. It has its pluses and negatives. It doesn't have as much. If you think of real world. Drag cars have wider tires in the rear end, but having the same tires all the way around lets you rotate them when they wear down, because this car has a lot of issues with wearing out the rear tires before the front ones. So there you go. After those screws there, that is the rear end of the car. Whole suspension, you could see. Just note where that the bearing is right there. I put it actually in the differential, and that was wrong. As you see, I'm holding the wheel very lightly, and it actually puts no effort into trying to keep rolling. So now we're going to take this apart. We're going to take the wheels off first, which I should have done first, but I was trying to test how much force it had. I took the brake calipers off because I have another set of hubs that light up and stuff like that too, so that's why I take it off, and it's easier to take apart. I kind of really saw no need to keep the hubs on there. Make sure you keep track of those pins like I did. Put them in the hub. Now, as I'm doing this, I'm recording this and trying to figure out at the same time what's going on. So if I look like I'm staring at it blankly, it's because I am. This is the easiest way I found to take it apart. Take the 4 screws on the bottom A-arm off, and it lets you get to everything pretty easily. It just pops right off. And you can take the drive shaft out, and yep. Now, if you're like me, I'm pretty OCD about how my car looks. So what I'm going to do is take the drive shafts out, and I dropped my screwdriver. Take the drive shafts out and clean them. Actually, I'm pretty much take everything apart. The greenish that you kind of see is not dirt, it's pollen. I drove across the tennis court once during the fall, and the car was completely covered in green pollen. So, now we're going to take the other side off. And then it just kind of... It takes a real man to take this car apart. Obviously, I'm not too qualified. Yeah, there it is. And you can see the differential there with the output shafts. So I'm trying to find what screws to take off next. There's the drive shaft with the bearing on it. I'm going to take those apart and soak them in degreaser and oil so they get nice and cleaned up. And I have some orange degreaser so it smells pretty. So I'm looking at now, there looks like there's 4 screws on the top, 2 near the body post and 2 near the actual spur gear. So we're going to take those out next. This car looks very difficult to work on, but once you get apart and you keep track of where the screws go, like I am, you see I have a magnetic plate, and I'm grouping them together in a certain order, so I keep track of everything. It's not really that hard, just everything's just around the differential, so, supports and trusses and braces and stuff like that. So there's the 2 in the back by the body post. And I was kind of surprised, it just boop, popped right out. Yeah, look at all that green dirt that's inside there. Being OCD and working on RC cars does not go together very well sometimes. You could just, I think it's clean, but it's obviously never really clean. And it just simply pops right open from there. That is a lot of the grease that's in there. As a side note, that differential right there is the same thing as a Vaterra Helix differential. Only difference is that it's a plastic ring, not a metal ring. I'm sure the metal ring would have been nicer, but this is a road car and not having the same forces as the monster truck. Now, to remove the output shafts, there is a little ring around it that holds in the pin. I just took a little flathead, pushed it over. You want to push it away from the diff so it stays on the output shaft. I pushed it the wrong way so it was free and easier to use. As you can see right there, that's the little ring. I should have just left it on the shaft. And there is my bearings, which I thought were clean because I've never driven this car in water. Just only dry dirt and airbrush or air compressor out. So it's always a good idea, even if you don't think your car is dirty and have anything wrong with it, take it apart and clean it. If you're not taking your car completely apart at least once a month, you're not doing it right. So that time I pushed it on the other side so it's going to stay on the plastic output shafts. And keep the magnetic tray. And then we're going to remove the bearing with the flathead. Don't push on the bearing too hard in one corner. As you can see here, I'm moving around and kind of lifting it up all the way around so I don't damage the bearing. You can replace the bearing with ceramic bearings. I've seen Boca Bearing makes bearings for this car, and they're supposed to be ceramic and sealed and never wear down, and some are even waterproof. But being ceramic, that kind of is a non-issue. This is really easy to turn that. It just felt like there was nothing in the differential but grease. So now we're going to take off the main ring. Sorry, I don't have the technical names for it. The thing that spins the other thing. As I found out, that's plastic, and it's not as strong as you would think it is. But again, it's a road car. It's a 10 scale road car. It doesn't weigh very much. And there's the gears. Little gears inside that spin around, as you can see. The thicker the fluid, the harder it is to run those. But as you can see, there's no fluid in it. There's really just black grease. So it was a pretty open diff. And I don't drive this car in sharp turns or try to do courses or anything, so make sure when you're taking this apart that you watch carefully how everything went in, all the little pieces. That little rubber gasket fell out, and I was kind of confused on where it went. I thought it went inside the car and on the drive shaft, but actually it didn't go there. It went on the outside plastic ring there, plastic cup on the outside. So I was trying to put it on there and go, this doesn't work. So pull that off. There's a pin to hold that in place. I've just kind of messed up my hands there, and I'm just trying to figure out what to do. And yep, there it goes. Now I got it. Yep, it goes right in there. Ta-da! As you see, I was like, you idiot. So there's the plastic diff gear. There's several pieces on there. There's a plastic piece. There's a brass piece, it looks like, but I never actually got that off, so I just left it alone. Getting all the pieces together. So I soaked them in degreaser, scrubbed them, and then used Q-tips, and then oiled them slightly to get the rest of the stuff off of it. So now we're going to put it together. Now don't follow me exactly on this, because I had to stop a few times, undo what I did to redo it, and to try again. Make sure you put the plastic piece in there. Put the outdrive gear inside first. They have another part of this where I put all the center gears in, and I forgot that main piece. Again, it's all held in together with pins, pushed into place. I don't know what I was mad about at that point, but oh yeah, they're really hard to put in. You got to get just right. Nothing actually screws together in there. They just fit into place. So you're taking it out, screwing with it, putting it back in. If you worked on other cars before, this is very similar. Like I said, this is the same exact differential as a Vaterra Helix. It's nothing new here. They didn't reinvent the wheel. It was just getting to it in the first place that was difficult. Put the drive shaft through, or output shaft through. Put the pin in there, then put that on it, and that's held in that way. And it kind of snaps into place. Ta-da! So the next thing to do is to put the diff fluid in it. This is 100,000 K diff fluid. It takes a real man to squeeze that out and put that in there, so hopefully I'll be able to do that. Struggle. I kind of lift up so you can see how slow it actually is, but you want to have it down in there and shove it into the corners just a little bit, and then spin it so it moves it around. As you can see, it's getting in there and getting turned around. I don't know if it's like shocks where you have to sit and let the air bubbles get out of it, but something tells me 100K fluid would take forever to get the bubbles out. My hand got tired. Like I said, it takes a real man. So we don't fill these up all the way, because you don't want stuff coming out, because that gear is going to go on top of it. But you want to make sure you get all the corners. You don't want any major air bubbles in there. I don't know if anybody's noticed my shirt so far, but it says headlights go up, headlights go down. Headlights go up, headlights go down. From one of my favorite internet shows of regular car reviews. If you're into cars, which you're watching this because you're into cars, you should watch regular car reviews. He's not paying me to say that. I just love that guy. So then we line up the screws. I'm testing it there. It's a lot harder to turn. That should be good on the road. I wouldn't say it's completely locked, but it's pretty close. And now we're going to put the screws back in. Now one thing I learned is that's plastic, that's weak. What happened was I tightened it down too far and I wasn't paying attention to it. So when I put it back in the differential case, I noticed weird noise every time it rolled around. Well, I tightened it down too far, and you see the ring actually was warped and was causing a lot of issues. So I had to go in and tighten it just right so it would... I still think it's a little over tight, but it doesn't wobble that much, so I'm not too worried about it. Okay, now I'm getting it together. Yep, just testing it there. And the next video hopefully should be me working on the front diff. Like and subscribe. And thank you from Steven
and Chelsea.